The year was 1960s. Deep inside the thick forests along the border of Karnataka and Tamil Nadu, a boy walked barefoot through the jungle trails. His name was Kusimunasamy Veerappan. Back then, nobody knew this skinny village kid would one day become the most hunted outlaw in India, but the jungle already knew his name. A village at the edge of the forest. Veerappan was born in Kopinatham, a tiny village surrounded by dense forests. Life there wasn't easy. No proper roads, no hospitals, barely any schools. Most villagers survived by farming or by entering the forest. And the forest? It wasn't just trees. It was full of sandalwood trees, elephants, and hidden money. Lots of money. Illegal money. One evening, a teenage Veerappan sat near a fire with an older man named Sivi Gounder, a known poacher. Sivi looked at him and smirked. Sivi, kid, you want to stay broke your whole life, or you want to make real cash? Veerappan stared at the glowing fire. Veerappan, what kind of cash? Sivi leaned closer. The kind that makes you a king in these woods. He pointed toward the dark forest. That was the moment everything changed. The first kill. At just 17 years old, Veerappan entered the jungle with poachers. The mission? Hunt elephants. Not for meat, for ivory. The jungle was silent except for insects buzzing. One of the men handed him an old rifle. Poacher, yo, kid, steady your hands. Don't freak out. Veerappan swallowed hard. Sweat rolled down his face. In the distance, an elephant appeared. Huge, majestic, peaceful. But to the gang, it was money walking. Sivi whispered, take the shot. Veerappan hesitated. For a few seconds, nothing moved. Then, bang! The jungle echoed. The elephant collapsed. The men cheered. Yo, kid nailed it. That's what I'm talking about. Veerappan didn't smile, but inside, something had changed. That first shot opened a door he would never close. Learning the jungle code. Over the next few years, Veerappan became a regular in the forest. He learned everything. How to move without making noise, how to hide tracks, how to survive days without food, how to vanish. Literally vanish. One night, sitting around the fire, another poacher laughed. Poacher, yo, Veerappan, you move like a ghost, man. Veerappan smirked. In the jungle, ghosts live longer. Everyone laughed, but those words would later become legend. The Sandalwood Secret. Soon, Veerappan discovered something bigger than ivory. Sandalwood. Not just wood, luxury wood, used in perfumes, carvings, and exports, worth serious cash. But cutting sandalwood trees was illegal, which made it perfect for criminals. One day, Sivi showed him a freshly cut log. Sivi, see this? One log like this gets more money than 10 elephant tusks. Veerappan touched the wood slowly. Smooth, heavy, expensive. Veerappan whispered, so this is the real game. Sivi grinned. Welcome to the big leagues, kid. That day, Veerappan chose his future, and it wasn't farming, it was smuggling. The first police encounter. By the late 1970s, Veerappan wasn't just a helper anymore. He was leading small groups, cutting sandalwood, moving logs secretly across state borders. But the police had started noticing. One afternoon, deep in the jungle, a scout ran towards their camp, breathing hard. Scout, boss, police patrol nearby. Everyone froze. The park panicked, but Veerappan stayed calm, cool, focused. Veerappan, relax, nobody runs yet. He quickly studied the ground, then spoke. Hide the logs, move uphill, follow me. Minutes later, police arrived, but the camp? Empty. No men, no wood, nothing. One constable looked confused. Constable, sir, they were here. The officer clenched his jaw. Damn it, this guy's slick. From a nearby hilltop, hidden in thick bushes, Veerappan watched silently, not even breathing loudly. That was his first real escape, and definitely not the last. A reputation begins. Word spread across villages. There was a new smuggler in the jungle, fearless, smart, invisible. His name? Veerappan.
Villagers whispered stories. Some said he moved like wind. Others said he knew secret forest paths nobody else knew. Police files slowly began filling with reports. Illegal sandalwood cutting, elephant poaching, smuggling networks, all pointing to one man, Veerappan. And he was just getting started. The birth of an outlaw. One night, sitting alone under the stars, Veerappan stared into the dark jungle. The wind rustled leaves. Somewhere far away, an elephant cried. He whispered to himself, "This jungle is mine now." And for the next 20 years, he would prove it.
The rise of the Sandalwood King. The jungle didn't just hide Kus Munisami Veerappan anymore. Now, it worked for him. By the early 1980s, Veerappan was no longer a small-time smuggler. He was building something bigger, a gang, a network, a jungle empire. And the police? They were finally realizing this wasn't just some random outlaw. This guy was becoming a serious problem. The gang takes shape. Deep inside the forests between Karnataka and Tamil Nadu, Veerappan sat with a small group of men. Some were hunters, some were smugglers, some were desperate villagers who wanted fast cash. He looked at them one by one. "Veerappan, listen up. If you roll with me, there's rules." One young recruit nodded nervously. "Recruit, what kind of rules, boss?" Veerappan leaned forward. Eyes sharp, voice calm. "Veerappan, listen up. If you roll with me, there's rules." Another man grinned. "Yo, boss, we got your back." Veerappan didn't smile. He rarely did. But inside, he knew this was the start of something powerful. The Sandalwood Empire begins. By now, Veerappan understood one thing clearly. Sandalwood meant money. Big money. The forests were full of valuable Indian sandalwood trees. Each log could fetch huge amounts in illegal markets, and Veerappan, he was cutting them fast. One night, his gang worked silently under moonlight. Axes struck wood. Thud, thud, thud. A massive sandalwood tree finally cracked. Crack! It fell hard. Dust rose into the air. One gang member wiped sweat from his face. Gang member, "Yo, bros, this gonna make us rich." Veerappan looked at the fallen tree, then replied calmly, "This ain't about rich, this about power." And power was exactly what he was chasing. The first bloodshed. As the gang grew stronger, so did the danger. Police patrols increased. Forest officers started tracking illegal cutting zones. One afternoon, somewhere deep near the forests of Satyamangalam, Veerappan's gang ran into a forest patrol. Boots crunching leaves, voices shouting, "Forest officer, stop! Drop your weapons!" The gang froze. For a second, everything stood still. Then chaos exploded. Gunshots echoed. Bang! Bang! Men shouted. Birds flew from trees. When the smoke cleared, a forest officer lay dead. Silence followed. Heavy silence. One gang member looked shaken. Gang member, "Boss, this just got real bad." Veerappan stared at the body, face cold, emotionless. "Veerappan, it was always real." That moment changed everything. From that day, he wasn't just a smuggler anymore. He was now a wanted criminal. The mustache that became legend. By the mid-1980s, Veerappan had developed a look people would never forget. A thick, massive mustache, sharp eyes, lean body. Villagers who saw him whispered later, "Villager, yo, that mustache, you can't miss it." It became his identity, his signature. Police sketches spread across stations, wanted posters printed. But catching him? That was another story, because Veerappan knew the jungle better than anyone. Killing the Elephant King. Veerappan's gang didn't just cut sandalwood, they hunted elephants, hundreds of them, for ivory. The number kept rising. One night, as the gang rested near a stream, a young recruit spoke nervously.
"Boss, how many elephants we done taken down now?" Another man laughed. "Man, lost count long ago." Veerappan looked at the fire, then spoke quietly. "Count don't matter. Survival does." Over time, reports suggested that hundreds of elephants were killed by his network. That made him one of the most feared poachers in India, and also one of the most hated. The police declare war. By the late 1980s, the governments of Tamil Nadu and Karnataka had enough. Too many trees gone, too many animals killed, too many officers dead. Inside a police station meeting room, senior officers sat around a table, files stacked high, photos of Veerappan spread across. One officer slammed his hand down. "Officer, this guy's been running wild for years. We gotta shut him down." Another officer sighed. "Easier said than done. Dude knows every inch of that jungle." Silence filled the room. Finally, the senior officer spoke. "Senior officer, then we hunt him like he hunts." That decision changed the future, because now the chase had officially begun. The birth of fear in villages. As Veerappan's power grew, so did fear. Villagers living near forests had mixed feelings. Some respected him, some feared him, some secretly helped him. One evening, Veerappan entered a small village quietly. Villagers froze. Nobody spoke. One old man finally whispered, "Boss, you need food?" Veerappan nodded. "Yeah, and keep quiet about it." Villagers obeyed, not because they wanted to, because they were scared. Everyone knew one thing: betrayal meant death. The first major manhunt. By the end of the 1980s, police forces from multiple districts launched serious operations. Tracking teams, forest patrol units, armed squads. They entered deep jungle zones, looking for one man, Veerappan. One day, a police patrol found fresh footprints. An officer crouched down, touched the soil. "Officer, fresh tracks. He was here not long ago." Another officer tightened his grip on his rifle. "Yo, we're close." But once again, they were too late. The camp was empty, fire still warm, but Veerappan gone like smoke. The king of the jungle is born. By now, his name had spread everywhere. News reports, police records, village gossip, all repeating one name, Veerappan. Not just a smuggler, not just a poacher, a king of the jungle. And kings don't give up their kingdoms easily. By the early 1990s, the name Kusi Munisami Veerappan wasn't just known in villages anymore. It was all over police headquarters, government offices, news headlines. And now, the hunt for him had officially turned into a full-scale war. The Special Task Force is born. The governments of Tamil Nadu and Karnataka realized something serious. Normal police patrols weren't enough. Veerappan was too smart, too fast, too familiar with the jungle. So they formed a special unit, the Special Task Force, also known as STF. These weren't regular cops. They were specially trained, armed, prepared for jungle warfare. Inside a briefing tent near the forests of Satyamangalam, officers gathered around a map. Red circles marked suspected hideouts. A senior commander spoke firmly. "Commander, listen up. This dude's slippery. He knows these woods like the back of his hand." One young officer nodded. "Officer, so what's the move, sir?" The commander tapped the map. "Commander, we track, we surround, and we don't mess this up." Everyone understood. This wasn't just another mission. This was war. Jungle versus technology. The STF had better weapons, better communication, better planning. But Veerappan had something stronger, the jungle itself. He knew hidden paths, water routes, secret caves, places where even maps failed. One night, inside a hidden forest camp, Veerappan sat with his gang. A scout rushed in, breathing heavily. "Sir, STF moving in from the east side." One gang member panicked. "Yo, boss, they closing in." Veerappan stayed calm, always calm. "Veerappan, relax. They got guns, we got the jungle." He stood up and pointed toward a narrow trail. "Veerappan, we split, move silent, no noise." Minutes later, their camp vanished. Just ashes from a fire remained. When the STF reached the spot, they found nothing. Again. The deadly ambush. But the jungle didn't always protect him. Sometimes it turned into a battlefield. In one of the most shocking incidents of the early 1990s, police teams moved into forest zones after receiving intelligence about Veerappan's location. They thought they had him cornered. They were wrong. As officers walked through dense trees, suddenly, bang! Gunfire exploded from hidden positions. Leaves shook. Men shouted, "Officer, ambush! Take cover!" Bullets tore through branches. Chaos filled the forest. The attackers? Veerappan's gang, hidden behind rocks and trees. They knew every angle, every blind spot. After the firing stopped, several officers were injured. Some lost their lives. The news shocked the nation, and Veerappan's reputation, it grew even darker. The informer network. One of Veerappan's biggest strengths wasn't just weapons, it was information. He had informers, villagers, traders, sympathizers, people who warned him whenever police entered nearby areas. One evening, a village boy quietly approached Veerappan's camp, looking nervous. "Boss, police seen near the river crossing." Veerappan nodded, calm. "Good looking out, kid." He handed the boy some money. That was how he survived, not just by running, but by knowing things first. Life inside the jungle. For the STF, jungle life was brutal. Long marches, heavy gear, little sleep, mosquitoes everywhere, food supplies limited. Inside a temporary camp, a tired officer sat near a lantern, wiping sweat from his face. "Man, this jungle ain't playing fair." Another officer laughed weakly. Second officer, "Yo, neither's that guy." They were exhausted, but quitting wasn't an option. Too many lives had already been lost. The myth grows bigger. By the mid-1990s, Veerappan's name turned into legend. Some villagers believed he had supernatural luck. Others thought he could disappear into thin air. Stories spread like wildfire. Villager whispering, "Yo, police come, he gone before they even blink." Fear surrounded his name. Even officers felt the pressure. One senior officer once said quietly, "Officer, this man ain't just a criminal, he's a ghost." The landmine attack. The war reached a terrifying level when Veerappan began using landmines against police patrols. It was ruthless, dangerous, and shocking. One morning, an STF convoy moved along a narrow jungle path. Vehicles rolled slowly. Everything seemed quiet, too quiet. Then, boom! A massive explosion shook the ground. Smoke filled the air. Metal shattered. Trees shook violently. The convoy had hit a landmine. Men shouted in panic. Some were injured. The attack shocked authorities and made the hunt even more intense. A cat-and-mouse game. Years passed. Operations continued. Raids failed. Ambushes happened. Escapes repeated. It turned into a never-ending game of cat and mouse. Inside a police headquarters, officers reviewed reports again. Frustration filled the room. Officer, "Yo, every time we get close, he slips away." Another officer slammed a file shut. Second officer, "This dude's driving everyone nuts." But quitting? Not happening. Not after so many sacrifices. The Jungle King tightens his control. Meanwhile, Veerappan strengthened his hold over forest regions. His gang stayed mobile, never staying long in one place, always shifting, always watching. One night, sitting beside a small fire, a gang member asked, "Boss, you think they'll ever catch us?" Veerappan looked into the darkness, silent for a moment, then replied, "They can try, but jungle don't betray its own." Those words sounded confident, but deep down, pressure was building because the chase was getting tighter and danger was closing in.
The kidnappings that shocked India. By the late 1990s, the hunt for Kusai Munisamy Veerappan had already lasted years. Police chased him, governments spent crores, special forces searched night and day, but Veerappan, still free, still hidden in the jungles of Tamil Nadu and Karnataka. And then he did something that shocked the entire country. Something bold, something dangerous. He started kidnapping high-profile people. A new strategy, kidnapping for power. By now, Veerappan knew the police wouldn't stop chasing him. The pressure was rising, supplies were getting harder, the jungle was no longer as safe as before. So, he changed tactics. Instead of just smuggling sandalwood and ivory, he moved into kidnapping. Not random people, important people, powerful people. One night, inside a hidden forest camp, Veerappan sat with his closest men. Firelight flickered on their faces. A gang member spoke quietly. "Boss, cops tightening the net. We running low on ammo." Veerappan stared into the fire, thinking, then spoke slowly. "If they won't stop chasing, we make them listen." Another man frowned. "What you mean?" Veerappan leaned forward, eyes sharp. "We grab someone important." Silence fell. Everyone understood. This wasn't just another plan. This was risky, very risky. The kidnapping of a film legend. The moment that shook India happened in July 2000. The target, one of the biggest film stars in South India, Rajkumar. He wasn't just an actor, he was a legend, a cultural icon, loved by millions. That night, at his farmhouse near Gajanur, everything seemed peaceful. Family members were relaxing, dinner was over, the night was quiet. Too quiet. Suddenly, armed men entered the farmhouse, fast, silent, dangerous. One of them stepped forward. It was Veerappan, recognizable by his thick mustache. The room froze. Shock spread instantly. "Family member. Who are you?" Veerappan answered calmly. "You know who I am." Silence followed. Everyone understood. Fear filled the room. He turned toward Rajkumar. "You coming with us?" One relative pleaded nervously. "Please, don't hurt him." Veerappan replied in a cold tone. "Stay calm. Nobody gets hurt if nobody acts smart." Within minutes, Rajkumar was taken into the forest, and the country awoke to shocking news. India goes into panic. When news spread that Rajkumar had been kidnapped, it created massive chaos. Fans gathered in streets, shops closed, protests began. People demanded action. Inside government offices in Bengaluru, emergency meetings were held. Officials looked tense, worried, frustrated. One officer spoke urgently. "This ain't just kidnapping. This is national crisis." Another officer nodded. Millions of fans, emotions running high. Police pressure increased instantly. Media covered every update, every rumor, every movement. And Veerappan, watching from deep jungle, listening to radio news, smiling slightly, because now he had everyone's attention. Life in captivity. Rajkumar was held deep inside jungle camps, moved from one location to another, never staying long in one place, always shifting, always hiding. One night, inside a forest camp, Rajkumar sat quietly. Veerappan approached slowly. "What do you want from this?" Veerappan replied calmly. "I want government to listen." Rajkumar stayed silent, listening, watching, waiting. Days turned into weeks, weeks turned into months. The situation dragged on, and tension grew everywhere. Negotiations begin. Governments from Tamil Nadu and Karnataka had no choice. They began negotiations. Messengers were sent into forests. Talks happened through intermediaries. Letters were exchanged. One negotiator spoke carefully to officials. He got demands, serious ones. "Officer, what kind of demands?" Negotiator, "Release of prisoners, safety guarantees, and more." The situation became complicated, dangerous, sensitive. Every decision mattered, because one wrong move could cost lives. The nation holds its breath. For over 100 days the kidnapping continued. Every day brought tension. Every day brought fear. Fans prayed. Families worried. Police searched non-stop. Villagers whispered rumors. One STF officer spoke to his teammate quietly.
Man, this dude got the whole country stressed. Another officer sighed. Yeah, but his luck ain't gonna last forever. But at that moment, Veerappan still controlled the game. Release after months. After long negotiations, finally, Rajkumar was released, alive, safe, but exhausted, weak, shaken. When news broke that he was freed, relief spread across India. Fans celebrated, people cried with happiness. But authorities, they were furious, because Veerappan had embarrassed the system and shown he still had power. Fear turns into anger. After the kidnapping incident, the government changed strategy. Enough negotiations, enough waiting. Now it was time to finish the hunt. Inside a high-level meeting, senior officers spoke firmly. This guy crossed the line. Another officer nodded. We end this, once and for all. New plans were drafted, new intelligence networks formed, new traps designed, because now the hunt had entered its final stage. The countdown begins. Back inside the jungle, Veerappan sat beside a dim fire, looking older now, more tired, more cautious. One gang member spoke nervously. "Boss, things getting tighter out there." Veerappan nodded slowly. "Yeah, storm coming." And this time, even he could feel it. The chase that lasted decades was reaching its end.
For more than 20 years, the forests of Tamil Nadu and Karnataka had hidden one of India's most wanted men, Kusimunisami Veerappan. He had escaped hundreds of raids, outsmarted trained officers, built fear across villages. But now, the government had made one final decision. This chase had to end. No more delays, no more missed chances, only one goal: catch Veerappan, dead or alive. The secret plan, Operation Cocoon. By 2004, senior police officers had started preparing their final strategy. The mission was called Operation Cocoon. This time, they didn't want loud jungle raids. They wanted patience, silence, smart planning. Inside a secure police camp, senior officers gathered around a table. Maps spread everywhere, photos of Veerappan pinned to boards. One commander spoke calmly. "We ain't chasing him anymore. We're trapping him." Another officer nodded. "So what's the move?" The commander leaned forward. "We go undercover." That was the key. Not force, not speed, deception. The undercover network. The Special Task Force began placing undercover agents near jungle villages. They dressed like locals, spoke like locals, worked like locals. Slowly, carefully, they earned trust. One undercover officer posed as a villager who helped transport supplies. Day after day, he watched, listened, waited. One evening, he quietly reported to his senior officer. "Sir, he's not as strong as before." "Commander, what you mean?" Undercover officer, "He's sick, eyesight problems, moving slower." That information changed everything, because now Veerappan wasn't the unstoppable ghost anymore. He was aging, weakening, and making mistakes. The final trap is set. By October 2004, intelligence confirmed something big. Veerappan needed medical treatment. He was planning to travel secretly. That gave the STF a golden chance. A fake plan was created, a vehicle arranged, everything prepared. Inside the STF base, tension filled the air. Officers checked weapons, radios tested, vehicles ready. One young officer whispered nervously, "Yo, this could be it, after all these years." Another officer replied quietly, "Yeah, tonight decides everything." Everyone knew this wasn't just another mission. This was history in the making. The night of October 18th, 2004. The night was dark, silent. Wind moved slowly through trees near Dharmapuri.
A vehicle moved along a narrow road. Inside it, Veerappan and a few of his close associates. He believed he was traveling safely. He didn't know the trap had already closed. Hidden nearby, STF officers waited, watching, listening, ready. One officer whispered into the radio, "Target vehicle approaching. Stand by." The vehicle slowed, then stopped. Suddenly, commanders gave the signal, "Move! Move! Move!" Officers surrounded the vehicle, shouting loudly, "Police, surrender!" The moment was tense, silent, heavy. Then, gunfire erupted. Shots echoed in the night. Within minutes, it was over. The long chase had ended. The fall of the Sandalwood King. When the smoke cleared, the result was clear. Veerappan was dead. After more than 20 years of running, hiding, escaping, his journey had ended. Officers approached carefully, flashlights pointed at the vehicle. One officer whispered softly, "That's him. It's finally over." Another officer sat down on the roadside, exhausted, relieved. "Man, after all these years, we got him." For many officers, it was emotional. They had spent years chasing him, lost friends in operations, risked their lives countless times. Now, the war was finally over. The news that shocked the nation. When news broke that Veerappan had been killed, it spread across India instantly. Television channels ran non-stop coverage. Newspapers printed special editions. Crowds gathered to hear updates. Some people celebrated. Some remained silent, because for decades his name had created fear, and now that fear was gone. The legacy of a 20-year hunt. By the time his story ended, Veerappan had become one of the most infamous criminals in Indian history. His crimes included large-scale sandalwood smuggling, elephant poaching, multiple attacks on police, kidnappings of high-profile individuals, years of evading law enforcement. The forests of Satyamangalam slowly returned to quiet, but his story remained unforgettable. The final reflection. One retired STF officer later reflected quietly, "Yo, people think this was just about catching one guy, but nah, it was about ending fear." And that was the truth. For over 20 years, one man controlled the jungle, but in the end, even the jungle couldn't save him. The end.